from the Daily Mail. The chart that shows why RFK Jr. dropping out could decide whether Trump or Harris wins the election. That being said, this is news for Donald Trump. This is good news. Take a look at this. So this is from their poll. 51% of people who said they were going to vote for RFK Jr. say they would vote for Donald Trump. 26% for Kamala Harris. 23% don't know. Let's just put it this way. 4.7% aggregate, for according to 538 for RFK. Let's say 2.2% of voters, because this is all, 2.2% of voters switch from RFK to Trump. That boost, Kamala Harris can't make up.
Right.
That two percentage points is a massive boost. She's going to be behind and struggling to keep up. The basement campaign, I think, can only go so far. And she's now following actually during the DNC, the prediction markets are starting to favor Donald Trump. So he's starting to improve in a lot of areas, in the betting markets especially. And now with this RFK endorsement, they just stole the entire DNC. This was supposed to be Kamala Harris wrapping up Thursday night at the DNC with what Jonathan Chait calls the greatest acceptance speech I've ever seen. Oh, spare me, dude. But during the week of the DNC, the news is stolen by Nicole Shannon saying, we're considering endorsing Trump. Everyone then turns their head from the DNC. Yep. The next day, sources leak. They're going to do it. And then the day after Kamala Harris gives the speech, RFK steals the thunder with the speech on in the evening and then a primetime rally with Trump, ensuring that all of the headlines that we're going to be sharing and we're going to be talking about ain't going to be Kamala Harris.
I guarantee Kamala just lost a lot of voters, too, that weren't even planning on voting for RFK. Because if you think about what he was saying in his speech, like the Democratic Party literally runs in his veins. Yet he's up here saying that they have completely alienated everything that we've ever stood for. And looking at like all the censorship that has happened, everybody knows Big Pharma is corrupt. Everybody knows these different things are going, or I shouldn't say everybody, because a lot of people haven't woken up yet somehow. But a Kennedy being up there exposing all of that and saying that the Democrats have left him, that's profound. Like, I don't think people have really let that sit in, just how profound it is for a Kennedy to get up there and say that the Democratic Party is not what it used to be. Because many moderates, if you talk to them now, they identify as Kennedy Democrats still all these years later. And that side of the party is just completely annihilated.
Well, that's exactly why the media came out all those 15 months ago when he first announced and tried to immediately kookify the guy. They tried to make it so that even though he makes incredibly cogent and compelling arguments, they wanted him to be persona non grata from Jump Street so that any of his very valid arguments would not be heard by those people, because they still look to the corporate media and they take their signals from them as to who is reputable, who should I listen to. And they knew that he would be a very damning character to be on the political landscape, and they were right, because even with them demonizing him for 15 months straight, he still left an indelible mark on this race.
I think the only reason his polling starts dropping is not because anybody was like, he's a bad guy. It's because people started saying, it doesn't appear he has a path to victory.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. RFK fought as hard as he could, and then he said, okay, Trump it is.
Right.
And I gotta say that what you guys are saying about that he's going to win with 2.2% for sure, like in a free and open and fair election, that is true. But the dark magic involved right now, which I'm concerned is that the empire has dominion over our voting systems. It's a good bit of a to say Dominion is hyperbolic, but you understand they named that company Dominion. That's wild. That it's like meme magic. Like it's as if they want us to know that they have dominion over the voting system. I don't know, but it's mechanical electronic voting that they can flip behind the scenes. I am damn concerned about that, man.
Yo,
I mean,
but I agree. But I would just broaden that and say fortification. That's what they call it. Fortification could take any form. Now we've seen in Virginia that they're saying it's going to be all paper ballots. If more red states make those moves, that's good news. But this is Virginia. Virginia's supposedly supposed to be blue. I'd be willing to make a bet. And I don't know for sure, but I'd be willing to make a bet. With Virginia going all paper ballots, it turns red.
Interesting. You might be right.
Obvious reasons.
Yeah, no, I think, you definitely could be right. I share your concern, but this has always been my thesis, and I never really bought into Trump's narrative about the 2020 election and vote flipping day of. Not that I didn't buy into it. I just didn't have evidence to prove it out. What I am confident of, though, and they were brazen enough to brag about it in that notorious Times article where they talked about the cabal of elites that worked in tandem behind the scenes, not to steal the election, but rather to fortify the election. Like, it's such an absurdity. It's like It's like a Bond villain. They have to tell you what they're going to do.
I want to make a point somewhat outside of this conversation to stress how important it is that right now we get a candidate at least who's talking about ending war.
Yep.
Ukraine has invaded the Kursk region of Russia.
Big deal.
This is Western forces, NATO weapons and intelligence and money being used to invade and attack Russian civilians. Kursk issued an evacuation on 130,000 civilians. Putin's probably happy about it. He can use this for mass mobilization. But if this escalates, we're now talking about an invasion of Russia, and Ukraine is what? What is Ukraine? Right? It means borderlands. No disrespect to Ukrainians. I think it's a great country. It get invaded. None of our business. We get involved. An invasion of Russia. Russia is a world power. This could be a spark that escalates the current conflict into something substantially more dramatic.
Agreed.
I don't know that Trump solves the problem. I guarantee Kamala, who's in the office now, will make things worse, as they actively are.
Exactly.
The idea, and this is what RFK Jr. started talking about. He started talking about the war in Ukraine and the funding and everything they're doing is driving us towards annihilation. Donald Trump may not solve all of our problems, but at least he's the guy who's saying, when I was president, we did not have this war. Putin backed off. We got rid of ISIS. We worked on peace agreements. You've got a choice. Donald Trump is the least perfect guy for the job for sure, but he's the best person we've got right now. And if he does bring peace, this could avert an existential threat to humanity.
You're not overstating it whatsoever. I mean, I remember I debated Destiny in Tennessee almost 18 months ago now. By the way, all of his predictions during that debate were wrong, Destiny. I'll be waiting for your apology.
Sure.
Anyways, yeah, it's a really big deal, man, and it's just a catastrophic loss of life. From libertarian, I'm a hardcore non-interventionist, anti-war person. Like that to me is the most compelling argument for Donald Trump, and I still believe that despite the fight moment is probably the most courageous and will go down in history as the most memorable aspect of this campaign. For me, the most memorable thing or the most important thing he said was when he was doing the CNN town hall and he said, "I just want people to stop dying."
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was so powerful. It was so profound. It was so simple, but so beautiful because we never hear it by these scumbag politicians who want endless wars. He clearly does not. This is how I was talking about RFK Jr.'s sincerity. Trump is also sincere in this regard. I do believe that.
Trump doesn't want to rule the world.
Right.
The military-industrial complex does. They want to take Ukraine. They want to shut down Russia. They want to control Russia so that Russia can't overcharge Europe for gas and energy, so that we can expand the NATO power and economic bloc, so that we can create a quote-unquote new world order. And I'm not talking about a new world order as a proper noun. I'm talking about what George H.W. Bush said in the early 90s about how the liberal economic order would transform into some kind of new type of world order.
Right.
That's what they want. Trump doesn't care. Trump says, Russia, make your oil, trade your oil. Be Russia. We're gonna take care of America. Don't screw with us or we'll nuke you. And Russia's like, okay. And they back off. We had in Ukraine the escalation, the ousting of Yanukovych, and the building up of troops by Russia on the border. Trump gets in. Everything stopped.
But didn't he send a bunch of money to Ukraine or weapons?
Congressionally approved.
Yeah.
So Trump has limited authorities, but the point is, while he is far from perfect, he did a lot of Tomahawk missiles into Syria.
There's only
big mistake.
Only so much you can do as the president, as the commander of the ship, as the pilot. You can't just hit the brakes on the airplane or everything falls. So.
It's true, but as our chief diplomat negotiating with these other powers, we got no new wars for the first time in my life.
Yep.
And so when I'm looking at that and I'm looking at Kamala Harris, who's in the administration now, and we're on the brink of World War III, I'm like, Trump, please.
Exactly.
That's why it's crazy that Kamala Harris really got on that stage yesterday and made it seem like Trump was this communist authoritarian who started all these wars and created all these conflicts. It's like this was during your time in the White House. I don't think enough people are paying attention to the fact that Kamala Harris acts like she has not been in the White House the last 3.5 years. Like you have been a part of every negative decision that has led to our downfall, but you want to blame Trump when he hasn't been in the White House since 2020.
And can you imagine the girl boss attitude if she goes to have a negotiation with Putin, right? I'm speaking. Like, this is not someone I want representing our country in a potentially tense situation. She's not charming enough to get elected by her own party fairly. I don't want her representing us, especially with people who feel like we've been actively funding their enemy.
It was a couple years ago, but she was actually asked about the Russia-Ukraine war, and she goes in this long soliloquy about how Ukraine is a smaller country and Russia is a larger country, and she's just such an imbecile. It's embarrassing that they would even attempt to foist her upon us. But you guys are all obviously correct that she would be an existential danger, not just to the American people, but to the entire globe, put in the role of negotiating peace.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.